Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Labonte, and I'm coming to you today after having a few days, weeks, really, to reflect and gather my thoughts on the recent injustices that have happened in our country. And it's so hard to honestly to put into words or know what to say, being a person who is white. And first and foremost, where I want to start is it breaks my heart to see the continued patterning and undercurrent of racism that is still very much within our country. And, as someone who is white, we need to address this undercurrent, this narrative, this it's happening both blatantly, as we saw with Ahmaud, George, but also there's a subconscious layer that I think we really need to address. Because even if we think racism, that was healed long ago. No. Just because some laws were passed does not mean that the cultural, societal narratives have stopped. And I think one reason why I've taken my time to gather my thoughts and decide what I want to share is because I want to share a story about where I jumped to a conclusion and I realized that I had a narrative within my head. So I'm going to share this story with you. I live in New Hampshire, which frankly is pretty homogenous. Lots of people who look like me. And I also lived in a very homogenous neighborhood. The neighborhood I live in now is the same. And when this was I think about a year ago, I was coming home from somewhere, and I noticed that there were two out-of-state cars that were they were blocking me to actually get home. Like I couldn't enter my driveway. And all the people within the cars, like, so there's multiple people, they were people of color. And I remember thinking, I'm like, why are they here, and why are they blocking my driveway to get in? And initially I actually had a thought where I was like, oh my God, could they be thinking about breaking into like a house? Like, are they trying to plot something? And then I was able to get home. I went another way. And then when I got home, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, if they were white, would I have even thought that? And like as I share that now, oh God, the shame and guilt that I felt then and I feel right now in this moment, um, oh, it's really challenging to share that I'm bearing this with you. But the fact of the matter is, we have to own this. And I think one reason why white people have a tendency whenever people are wanting to stand up and talk about the injustices that happen and then maybe brush it aside or want to look into the past of whoever, whatever happened, or whatever the person who died, what they did, there must have been some reason they deserved it, right? We always have this tendency to try and find a reason and move away from the discomfort of having to look at this patterning. And that's because as humans, we never want to be uncomfortable. We're always wanting to stay in the comfort zone. Always. We never want to deal with pain. We want pleasure. So when it comes time to look at our own wiring and patterning, it can get really freaking uncomfortable. And while so consciously, I think most Americans, of course, there are some people who even consciously are who are consciously racist, but unconsciously, this is a place where we need to start working and start looking at the subtle wiring and patterning that is within us. Let's be clear. I would say a large part of our society, we have this current operating system of maybe it's, I don't know if I want to say, I don't know how I want to phrase this, but I would say it's along the lines of we have an operating system where, let's look back hundreds of years, where people who are white feel this superiority. I mean, let's look at how America was founded. It was founded on genocide. As painful as it can be to reconcile that, there were millions of Native Americans who were murdered because we felt that we deserved this land, and they didn't. That is the premise of how America was initially founded. And we have to reconcile that. And then let's put another layer on top of that. Let's look at then we built this country on the backs of slaves. Let's look at the manifest destiny that occurred. And Africa, I mean, white people just went in and marked borders where they saw fit, where the resources were, with absolutely no consideration to the tribes and the people that were present. It was purely for our own gain. And so the reason why I bring that up is because we do have a deep pattern, even if it's so subtle. It may be so subtle because consciously, I think a lot of us are like, no to racism. We are all equal. But there may be, and I think there still is, and obviously with the actions that have happened recently, let's honestly look within the past hundreds of years, there still is these subtle wirings and patternings within our operating systems that we need to heal. We need to heal. And it doesn't start healing until we bring awareness to it. Awareness is the first step. So I'm proud of myself. So when I had that instance that I shared with you a little bit earlier, I'm proud that at least within a minute of that happening, I recognized it. And while shame and guilt suck to feel, I took a moment and I was like, why did I feel this way? And I took that moment to really take a step back and look at my privilege. So, and one more piece I want to share with you too, and this is where I think as white people we need to be really vulnerable and willing to get uncomfortable and have uncomfortable conversations and even examine ourselves, because we have to be curious and willing to learn from our past, to learn that, hey, we may have subtle wiring and unconscious patterning within us. And I share this, and where I want to share this other super vulnerable moment. I remember, obviously, this is now quite a few years ago when Black Lives Matter came to the forefront. And I was one of those people where I initially, and I didn't like put this on social media, but I remember thinking, well, all lives matter. And then it wasn't until I was willing to, and honestly, I was willing already, but I wanted to have, I was curious about having conversations and doing further research. And then I saw the power of why the Black Lives Matter movement matters. And it is because we need to be looking at specifically how Black Americans and any person of color within this world is treated. That is so important, because we need to reconcile this superiority complex that has been, even though we've taken steps to pass laws, okay, great, it didn't heal what was there. We need to heal and examine and get real and understand that each person, each human being that is on this earth is worthy of being here and stepping into their light and having all of the same access to resources, to abundance, prosperity, health. I mean, look at COVID. Look at what has happened in the disparity between how African Americans are impacted from it versus people who are white. Let's look at the schooling, how we actually, pay for education, and how areas that are higher with people of color tend to have less funding, lower education, because that's an area of poverty. Systemic racism is real. And in order for us to begin healing this, and especially this is, I say this for my fellow white brothers and sisters to, yes, allow yourself to get uncomfortable. If there was a moment where you felt shame and guilt for something that happened, where you had a pattern, this thought come into your head, the first step is becoming aware of it. Become aware. Have compassion for yourself when you're curious and you're willing to learn from it. Apologize and take action where it's needed to continue learning, growing. How can we make things better? That's a step in the right direction. So I want to end here today just saying I stand with my fellow brothers and sisters, my African Americans. I know I'm a person who's white, and I can't begin to really understand what you're feeling and going through, but please know I am actively trying to learn and be better and to change the world and create a legacy free from racism. Thank you.